Welcome, friends, to the inaugural and possible final episode of the Lord of the Wrongs podcast, the only Tolkien podcast that the professor himself would dismiss as juvenile and crass. My name is Dan Zerby, and with my co-host Sean Kelly, we'll be discussing the writings, adaptation, news, games, all the stuff surrounding J.R.R. Tolkien's Legendarium in a manner that, again, the professor probably would not approve of, because we're kind of dumb. We're kind of dumb guys.
Yeah.
I mean, right? I mean, we're not, the mission of this podcast is create amusing Tolkien-based content that fills the void left by intellectualism, academia, and respectful Tolkien podcasters.
Yeah, basically people who know what they're talking about.
Right,
So that's not where
us.
we step in. We fill the void that they leave, yeah.
Yeah, the idea is for the show to be a podcast that the average fan who may only know the films enjoy and listen to while also learning new things, while also, making the Legendarium veterans exasperated and irritated by the mistakes that we make.
Or entertained. I would prefer
hopefully entertained. I mean, it could be both.
Yeah,
they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, but one of my favorite things is to be entertained and frustrated at the same time. So that's I figured this was the perfect avenue for that. Yeah,
it really is. I think it'll work out really nicely.
So do you want to get into it with start out with some questions?
Questions, some getting to know you, answers that we may or may not know already about each other.
Yeah, I mean, I've known you're a Tolkien fan for a while, but I feel like I don't know that many specifics besides just the general
yeah, that's fair.
The sort of Zerby spin on that you have on a lot of things.
You have some very strong opinions on everything.
Yes. And I don't. I like to just agree. So that's perfect. We'll just go with what you said for just basically everything.
It sounds great to me. My ego really
I thought it would. I thought it would. So
right, cool.
do you wanna ask the first question?
Sure. Let's see. You came up with far more questions than I did. So
that's right.
Well, let's start easy. Who's your favorite character in the Legendarium?
Favorite character.
You have a single favorite character. It's very hard to pick.
It is hard to pick. It's much easier if you divide it into categories.
All right, fair enough. Okay, let's do this then. Who's your favorite Lord of the Rings character?
It might have to be Gandalf for me. Just the wise wizard who's also just kind of sassy is just like and I feel like Gandalf is like Tolkien uses it as an opportunity for like his humor comes through a lot in Gandalf, like the dry, yeah. But what's your favorite for the Lord of the Rings specifically?
It's Gandalf as well. He's always been my favorite. I could say for myself, he is my favorite Legendarium character. The same reasons that you listed. I mean, he's sassy. I mean, the Fellowship is at the walls of Moria, and they're trying to get in, and Gandalf's all pissed off because he can't figure out the stupid little riddle. And Pippin's just annoying the hell out of him.
Yeah, just
like, I'm gonna bash your stupid head against this door until it opens. Shut up. Love the impatience. Makes me very happy. The impatience and the hostility.
Takes I mean, he's lived for a long time.
He's got a hair trigger for this one hobbit.
Even as a mortal, he's lived a long time. Not to mention him being like an eternal being outside
who helped to sing the entire world into existence.
Yeah, I can
this
see
one
why
hobbit asking a question just makes him crazy.
Just has no patience for Pippin's antics.
Yeah.
All right, well,
good.
As far as favorite characters go, who's your favorite in the Silmarillion sort of like pre-Third Age?
Right. That is a really good question, because I think if you look at the Tolkien fandom as a whole, this is probably the most difficult question for most people, because the Silmarillion's really hard to read. I feel like that doesn't get talked about enough in other Tolkien podcasts. It's like, I've tried so many times. I've never made it
meaty.
through. It is. It's very
meaty.
dense. It's super dense. It's oatmeal with cement in it. You know, it sustains you, but good Lord, it is hard to get through.
Yeah, I mean, I've read it through in parts, and I've
Yes.
read all the stories and everything, but
Yes.
yeah, I cover to cover never read the whole thing.
Yeah, same here. I'm familiar with all the stories told, but it's
getting through chapter 2 is a challenge, but I mean, pretty much all the characters from that
so
situation.
if we're talking like first and second age characters, who's my favorite? We've talked about this before. I love Feanor because he's the worst.
Okay, yeah, not a great guy.
He's a terrible person. He's a fantastic character. And he just keeps making decisions that are like, dude, you're like going out of your way to be terrible.
You gotta respect the confidence, though.
He's so confident that what he's doing is right. That's one of the reasons I enjoy him so much, because he's a dick. He's a total dick. He's creepy,
unapologetic.
He has no self-awareness, or if he does not care.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to be overly political with this podcast. That's not my goal. But he does, in a certain way, remind me of Donald Trump, in that it's like he just does the thing that he wants to do because he's certain that he's right, and he does not care what anybody else says. Like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that. That's kind of dickish. And he goes, shut up, I'll kill you.
Yeah,
get out of my way. I'm doing this whether you like it or not.
Yeah, you got to respect it, at least.
Yeah, you know, I if nothing else, I find that attitude incredibly amusing. Feanor is a compelling character that way, especially since, you know, when you come to the Silmarillion after reading or watching in the adaptations of The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, like, all the elves are wise and imperial, and then you get to Feanor, who's just like spiteful and just so filled with pride, and he can't be talked down.
Completely counter to what we see in elves.
Yeah, it's like it's nothing like the Elrond of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, where he's this wise guy. He gives you great directions. He gives you advice, and it's so different from the elves that we know. The elves in the First Age are lunatics. I mean, they're just crazy.
Yeah,
they're violent,
and
they're selfish,
they're a lot more
self-absorbed,
almost
they're
like
racist
more
as hell.
human.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, more human is a really interesting way to put it, given that they're supposed to be better than us.
Yeah, it seems like it took time for them to get wise. You know what I mean? They really had to go through the ringer in order to be that sad and reserved.
It's true. Well, yeah, I mean, you think about what the elves of the First Age deal with. They're dealing with like the ultimate big bad, Morgoth. And for anybody listening to this who doesn't know who Morgoth is, he's Sauron's boss, basically.
Yeah,
he was the first big bad. He is the most powerful of the Valar, which are the little G gods in Tolkien's Legendarium. And I mean, his goal, Sauron's goal is always like order. He wants to order everything the way he sees fit. Morgoth was just chaos. He was chaotic evil, if we want to put this in D&D terms. Like, Sauron, is lawful evil in a certain way.
He was just a bad dude.
Yeah, he was just a bad guy. He just wanted to create discord and disharmony, and
I mean,
so the elves were dealing with that guy who was more powerful than Sauron ever became.
Yeah,
I mean, they were dealing with a lot more. They're dealing with a worse big bad than the elves of the Second and Third Age were dealing with.
Yeah, so it was an interesting time. Oh well.
How about yourself? Who's your favorite character from like the? Oh God, I just knocked over a guitar.
My favorite. See, I'm kind of thinking another flawed character from the time who would be Turin.
Oh yeah,
that's man of many names.
Talk about hilariously bad decision making.
Yeah, that's. it's I like him because he yeah, he just makes the worst decisions at every point, but it's sort of nice to see. It's nice to see a flawed character in
Yeah.
Tolkien, like from men, especially, that isn't just like just evil, or
Right.
like,
Yeah.
like, I love Aragorn and everything, but he just basically can do no wrong.
Yeah, pretty much. I
Uh,
mean, he's down on himself, like when they're chasing the orcs across Rohan, and yet it's like
yeah,
everything he
but
does. He's like everything I do just goes wrong. It's like, well, actually, everything you do ends up going very right.
yeah, I mean, he does. Yeah, if the worst thing you do is have a lapse in self-confidence, then I
You
don't think
are,
that makes that
yeah.
that
Well, that's why we
dark
are
of a
lesser men,
character.
and he is the Dunedain.
Yes, that's true. But so, I mean, Turin is I would say the extreme version of that, which, I mean,
Yeah.
half of it is sort of in his court of his decision making, but I mean, the other half is also just, aforementioned terrible guy.
Yeah.
Morgoth just decides, his dad, like, it kind of fucked with him a little too hard, and now
Yeah.
he's fully punished him for life by making just cursing his children and his family. And yeah, I mean, Turin really gets the brunt of that curse. We won't
Yeah.
go into detail about what and who he does, but it's
That is such a great way
you
to
know,
phrase that. So if you know the story basically of the children of Hurin, and then you know how gross and funny that was. And if you
I
don't,
don't.
you'll find
Yeah,
out in a later episode, maybe, or you just read the book
yeah.
too. You know, it's
There are so Christopher Tolkien and I forget the name of the guy that picked up the mantle after he passed, unfortunately.
oh yeah,
He edited these sort of compiled versions of stories from the Silmarillion, and there's
right.
the Children of Húrin is one of those stories, and it's a great read. Pretty depressing,
It's
but it's a great
extremely
read.
sad. Yeah, there's it's not a feel good read. It's not. You're not going to feel warm and
No,
fuzzy afterwards. You're going to feel gross and sad.
but like in a, I don't know,
It's good though. I mean,
that's
it's very compelling,
yeah.
obviously, and it's yeah.
It's strange. It's almost the opposite of a lot of Tolkien's works to me, where I feel like especially Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, it's all uplifting, sort of hopeful stories that have this sort of melancholic undertone because the
Yeah.
world is fading. Whereas that, like, you kind of know that things are turning around, and, like, I mean, it's dark
Yeah.
still at the time, but yeah, the story itself is a lot more tragic in that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a classic. It's a classic tragedy.
Yeah,
You know, it's like there's
it's like Oedipus or something like that,
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
in
exactly.
more ways than one. But
Yeah,
uh all right, anyway,
there's incest. We'll
let,
just say that part. Like
yeah, yeah, okay, yes, there is
they're trick. There's some trickery and
unwitting.
incest. Unwitting. Yes, unwitting. Unwitting incest.
It's yeah, which
There's a dragon that does a bunch of nonsense that really just messes with messes with Turin and his family.
but you know what, Turin gets his win in the end, which is why one of the
Does.
reasons I like him. He
Yeah, it's a
it,
very poetic story. You know,
he
it's
takes a
tragic and
lot, but he gives it back too. He kills a dragon for
he
Christ's
certainly
sakes.
does. Not just any dragon,
Uh,
father of
not
dragons.
just any, the big guy himself. All right, so let me
Let's
pose a
move on.
question to you.
All right.
uh, well, two questions in one, but let's just start with what was your first experience with Tolkien's work? Like, I think the
Right.
books first.
First experience with the books.
Yeah.
Okay, so my first experience with the books is actually my very first experience with Tolkien. It was in I remember I don't remember exactly when this was, but it was before. It was definitely before the films came out, or right before the films came out, the Peter Jackson film. And I was in the
Yeah.
car, like my uncle and aunt's minivan with my cousins, and they had the Hobbit audiobook on. I think it was CDs. It
Oh,
might have even
okay.
been tape. It might have actually been a book on tape.
Oh yeah, I remember the
And
like the big box with
yeah,
like
yeah,
like
it was like
12, 16
16.
tapes in
Yes,
it.
like 16 tapes. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so listening to that, I mean, the part that was playing when we got in the car when it started playing was in the Hall of the Elven King, and the dwarves
Oh,
have
that's cool.
been captured by the Wood Elves and are being held, and Bilbo is trying to figure out a way to how to get them out. That was my first
Yeah, as
bring up.
Tolkien says, the middle is a very good place to start. So
That's right. Yes. Yeah. And
I think
I really enjoyed it. Listening to that, the hour or two of that audiobook, I really, really liked it. I was like, oh, this is cool, but I didn't end up really seeking it out after that for whatever reason. I think my mom had found a copy of The Hobbit at like a tag sale or something like that. I still have that edition. It's a paperback that's really destroyed by now.
yeah, it's been thoroughly loved
Yeah.
and read.
But I remember starting to read it and just either getting distracted or, I was probably
I
12
mean,
or
yeah, you're
11
a
at the
kid.
time. And so
It's easy to not read as a
yeah,
kid.
it is easy to not read. And I loved reading. I read a lot as a kid, actually. I read a lot more
Yeah.
as when I was younger than even I do today. Yeah, so that was like my first time experiencing it. And that it was The Hobbit. And it was really great. I really enjoyed it. But I just didn't end up really getting into it at all until I saw
The
The
movies.
Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the
Um,
thing that really got me.
that does go to show that you are older than I am, but I'll get into that in a minute. Yeah, as far as my first book experience, I think I mentioned this to you. Yeah, my mom used to read books to my sister and myself upside down. Well, it was upside down for her, and then
Right.
we would just sort of follow along. And I think we read through the entire Lord of the Rings, and I had no idea what
Wow.
was going on. I was too young to like
Yeah, I mean
I don't
that's
know.
a
There were moments I registered. I think she read The Hobbit first, but I'm
right.
like too young. I was too young to even remember reading that. But I remember enjoying it. I just couldn't like it did sort of spark an interest, but I feel like I almost knew at the time. I was like, I gotta figure out what's going on with this later. Like I
Right.
just I distinctly remember the way I imagined Minas Tirith was just so not what Minas Tirith is like
Yeah.
because like my little boy brain couldn't like figure out the description of it, but it was I mean it was I definitely enjoyed parts of it, and it did obviously spark an interest later, but like you, it took I think seeing the movies to rekindle the
Right.
personal interest in rereading that. Which brings me into the sort of follow up to that. What was your first experience with the movies?
Yeah, it
And I
was
think you mentioned Fellowship. Yeah.
yeah, so it was 2002. The Fellowship came out in 2001. It was like the summer of 2002. My sister and my cousin Ellen these were the same cousins that I heard in their minivan that I heard the Hobbit audiobook for that hour or two. So my sister and my
Good
younger
cousin.
cousin, they were at camp. So me and my older cousin Kate were home at they were at my house. They're from Pennsylvania, but we were at my house. I remember this so specifically because it was such an impactful moment. And so we rented a couple movies. One was Sleepy Hollow, and the other one was The Fellowship of the Ring. And we watched The Fellowship of the Ring, and I remember being even though at the time I was like 11 or no, I was probably 12 by then. I was still like a little I was always nervous about movies I basically hadn't seen before if they were live action. For whatever reason, I
Okay,
just got
fair enough.
scared of
Yeah.
movies easily at that time. I don't know
Okay,
why.
and not to mention you've got Sleepy Hollow and Fellowship, which are
Yeah, I
two
know. And
pretty creepy
there's some
I mean, the
really
entire
creepy
first
moments.
half of Fellowship is creepy,
Yeah,
especially to a kid.
yeah. But I was like, I would argue I was probably a little old to be worried about it. I was more worried than I was actually scared at any point.
Yeah,
I was more worried about becoming scared. Yeah, so I remember we watched that, and my cousin Kate, she was so great. She was like, "Okay, this part here might be a little scary." She's
Yeah,
only a
covered
year
your
older than
eyes for
me.
like
Yeah,
getting stalked
yeah,
on
but
by the on Weathertop or
she was
something.
a very good guide. She was very sweet. At being like, "Okay, this part with Galadriel is going to freak you out. Might freak you out a little bit."
Oh,
Or
yeah.
her
Fair,
Bilbo
fair enough.
in Rivendell. Um, yeah, so that was my
Yeah,
first.
I mean, who could have seen that coming the first time?
Yeah,
And that would scare the crap out of
yeah.
me.
I mean, it was a surprise. It was a jump scare as well. Besides being visually
Yeah.
frightening, just the jump up to the scare too. It blew me away. I mean, I had never seen anything like that. I was already into fantasy literature. Like I was really into C.S. Lewis and the Narnia series. I loved that. I read The
Oh
Lion, the
yeah.
Witch, and the Wardrobe so many times I practically had memorized it.
Yeah.
So I was into fantasy to a degree, and then yeah, actually watching that it totally blew my mind. I became totally obsessed with just the
I
movie
mean, there
for a while
wasn't
though.
anything like it
Yeah, I mean
at the
there was
time
no.
in general.
Yeah, they didn't make movies like that. They didn't put that kind of time and money into fantasy
Yeah.
movies. It's just not something that happened. So to see
Yeah.
something that big and felt so, despite being so big and epic, it still felt really tangible. Like this is a place I
Yeah.
could go
Yeah.
to and actually experience. And so I became obsessed with the movies for a long time without, I didn't really even try reading the books until I think well after Return of the King came out, and I saw it well after that.
All right.
That was my first experience with
So
movies. Totally blew me away.
yeah, my first experience is actually kind of messed up.
Ooh, all right.
I don't think I even saw either of the other two movies because I was too young when I mean, I was like 8 or 9 when Fellowship came out, and so the first one that we went to see, my dad took my sister and I to see Return of the King, because by the time that was like 04 or whatever, right?
Yeah, it was 2000.
But it was like
I
once a
think.
year.
Yeah, yeah. I think
2000.
2001, 2002, 2003, I believe.
Yeah,
They came
okay.
out, but they all came out like at the end of those years, like around Christmas time.
Yeah, he took us to see that, and so I had like I kind of knew the story from having read it
Right.
somewhat at the time and everything, but I mean, obviously, I was blown away. It was like amazing, and if I don't know, this might sound messed up, but if you're gonna jump in without having seen the other ones, the third movie's still like I feel like it's a good place to go anyway because it's like
Yeah, I mean,
it's just epic for a kid.
yeah, I mean, it won like every single Oscar it was nominated for. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
pretty well respected film, you know.
But the messed up part is the theater that we went to. Uh, something was wrong with the film,
Oh
and
God!
the last like 15 minutes just got off.
Shut up! No way, really? Oh my
Yeah,
God!
so
Oh, talking about
so
like,
I don't remember exactly where it quote unquote ended, but
oh, that sucks.
it was after like 2 of the 5 endings. So I'm like, like I got the spine tingling hobbits being knelt to,
Yeah,
and then I think they
it would have to cut
started
off
I
right
think they
shortly
like
after that.
started yeah, they like started riding back to the Shire, and then it was just done.
Oh my God!
I was just like, oh, okay. And my dad was like throwing a big fit about it because he obviously understood, like, hey, that's can't be where the movie
Like, there's
ends.
no way. Like, even if they cut out a bunch of
Like
stuff, which they
he
did,
probably also knew that the Scouring of the Shire was a thing, so he was probably there like,
expecting
well,
that. Wait,
what?
had he not
Yeah.
seen it yet? Is that his first time
No,
watching
yeah,
Return? Oh my
we
God!
went, yeah, because it was in theaters, and
Yeah.
so he was probably like, well, because they also like Saruman doesn't get killed in the movie
Well, in the
in the
extended
theatrical
edition,
cut.
yeah, yeah.
So he was just like, well, friggin' Sharky is back there causing trouble, and we just missed that entire like that's got to be another half hour on top of this 3-hour long movie.
Did it make your dad feel better knowing that everyone else missed out on the Scouring of the Shire as well? It wasn't just his theater
I
experience.
never asked him because I was a kid and probably didn't even remember that
Oh, yeah.
part. But I think he was just overall not very happy with the theater at the time for just like ending the film
Right.
partway through. And my sister and I are like, "Wow, that was awesome, yeah," but incomplete.
Right.
Little did we know. All right. And you got another question you want to
I
pop?
do.
For me?
I got one for you. I was gonna say we're at like 27 minutes, so I think we can start wrapping up soon. But I have one more question that I could ask you. So, what for you in either the book or the movies? What part of let's narrow it down. Let's just keep it simple. For Lord of the Rings, what scene or passage or whatever are most emotionally impactful for you? There are a lot of times throughout those three films and throughout the book, I get very teary eyed. I get very
Okay.
emotionally
I
impacted
mean,
by it. So what are some of the
I
those powerful moments for you?
yeah, I think I already mentioned probably the biggest one for me, which was the scene with the hobbits at the coronation.
About every time, yeah, my friends, you kneel to no one.
Yeah, it's
Every time.
it is truly like every time it gets me. Just because it sort of just sums up like I think the amazing thing about that scene is how the hobbits actually get recognition for
No one's even heard of
the
hobbits. Like everywhere you go in Middle Earth, like no one's
yeah.
actually even heard of
Everybody
them.
there is like, who are these children here?
Yeah,
Like a couple days before that. But then,
yeah. Now they're the most
everybody's
famous
just like, hey,
people in the
this guy
entire.
destroyed the ring and saved the world for now.
Yeah. Wait, what is
Uh,
he?
what? Yeah, what's this? Who's this kid that
Who's a
just
small
went into
child
Mordor
that
with
destroyed
his friend?
destroyed evil in Middle Earth forever? Who was that?
Yeah,
And that's his gardener?
yeah, it's his manservant.
Yeah.
Okay, that's I don't understand how that works, but yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
that one gets me. And I
Yeah.
think I mean I don't want to like take too many options from you, but I think Boromir, his death, especially once I had like read back into the books more and sort of understood his character better, and in the extended edition, I feel like he gets
Yeah.
sort of a better take.
Yeah.
It became a lot more emotional because initially I was like, oh well, this jerk died. That's fine.
Yeah, and when you read the books, it's like you really understand more. Like this is not who he actually is. This is the ring corrupting him. It's
Yeah,
like this is
yeah.
not
It's just,
like he wasn't a
he's
bad
just
guy.
vulnerable.
I mean, Boromir has his faults. Certainly very prideful. Um, prideful,
Yeah,
arguably to a fault. But he's not a bad person at all. It's just his pride was a perfect thing for the ring to
yeah.
grab onto
Worm into and yeah.
and to corrupt him. Yeah.
How about you?
I mean, both of those are incredibly. I also the aspect of Boromir's death that is so emotionally impactful for me is also the fact that that's his redemption because of Merry and Pippin.
Yeah,
If we don't know what happens to human souls in Tolkien's Legendarium. We just know humans have the gift of death. We don't know what happens to their souls. But if there is a heaven, like because of Merry and Pippin and Boromir giving his life to try to save them, like that's his redemption. He saves himself from being
yeah.
completely
He's got a
doomed.
shot now.
Yeah, exactly. So redemption's always a very powerful thing for me. That always gets to me. But I
Yeah,
would say the number one thing that just breaks my heart every single time I read it, and I would actually, this is less impactful in the movie than it is in the book for me, is the scene where Frodo and Sam are asleep and Gollum is watching them, and he has this moment where he nearly repents, where he's just
oh yeah,
he sees Frodo and Sam sleeping, and Sam is holding Frodo, and it's very sweet. And you see Gollum. There's this moment where he nearly repents, and he nearly comes back, almost is able to save himself. Sam wakes up and starts berating him, and just ruins it, and just seals everybody's fate there. It's just like
Yeah.
every single time it wrecks me. I mean, I get teary-eyed every single time.
It's
Every
definitely in the books. It's definitely more impactful
yeah, oh, it's so
because
powerful.
you can sort of hear the inner monologue. And as great a job as Andy Serkis does, it's kind of hard to make a CGI
Yeah.
creature really come across and convey all those emotions
It
and,
was
that
almost
turmoil.
in the film because in the book it's a very, to me it reads as an incredibly important moment, and in the film it almost is a
Yeah,
throwaway.
it's played
It's
down.
almost a throwaway
Yeah,
scene. Like I think
yeah,
in the film they Jackson ended up putting more emphasis on, well, just invented emphasis really to put on like Frodo sending Sam away on the steps of Cirith Ungol,
yeah.
which
And
doesn't really make that much
Smeagol's like
sense.
him like sending them to Shelob and everything. Like I
Yeah,
feel like that gets a lot more play than
yes.
his
The fact that like this is
the sort of arc of him almost sort of repenting.
yeah,
Yeah.
he comes so close to mastering himself over the ring by just, you know, recognizing this like moment between
By
him and
Frodo being a
friends.
good guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and Sam just like, "What are you
Um,
doing, stinker?" It's
yeah,
just like,
really the only thing
oh,
Sam does wrong
yeah.
in
It's
uh
understandable though, for from Sam's point of view, it's totally understandable. I mean, Gollum, like,
oh no,
you know,
yeah. I think I think that also just really emphasizes how much, and they kind of touch on this in the movies, and I guess I've gotten that more as I get older, but how true it is when Frodo like basically says you don't understand.
oh, to Sam, yeah,
Like that's yeah,
can't
when
understand what this
like
is. Yeah,
yeah, because he is the ring bearer, so it just naturally like he understands what Gollum feels,
I,
but Sam just never will because he's just too innocent to even really want the
yeah.
ring.
Well, even when he does take the ring, I mean, he's still
I mean, he gives it back. He's the only guy who ever gave it up on his
Bilbo.
own.
Bilbo gives it up.
Okay,
And actually, to be fair,
yeah,
Sam, like Frodo snatches it out of Sam's hand before he can fully hand it over, and I think that's the
yeah,
only
true.
like
Okay,
that's a very slight difference, but it does make it. It is different. The fact that Sam has a moment when Frodo snatches it back, where everybody feels
he
the
does.
ring,
He does.
a flash of
He does
rage.
start giving it back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's that flash of rage, and then he masters himself. He's like, "Oh, okay, no, this is fine. This is how it's supposed to be. Never mind." You know?
All right. I got two more things for us to touch
All right, yeah,
on, and they're gonna get a little more off the rails, I guess.
excellent. This has been far too.
This has been too
No,
genuine
this has been a
and
far too even intellectual, but it's just been too
serious,
yeah.
really.
It's far more serious than the intro I certainly laid out. Implied it was going to be. But yeah, let's go. Let's get crazy.
So let me introduce to you a segment I like to call Mad Men of the West. Insert stinger here. So this is where we sort of so I've got this overarching idea, and I like to call it imminent domain, which is that Lord of the Rings goes into public domain on January 1st, 2049, which gives us an opportunity to,
Make some money.
if they're gonna remake this movie, yes,
Let's make
exactly.
some
We
money.
need let's get some product placement going,
All right.
you
Yeah,
know?
I think yeah.
So
But
I have a question for you. Which do you think would be a better product placement for this Lord of the Rings remake? That they just don't need to be reverent at all because anybody can do it at this
yeah.
point. So would you rather have? It's going to be a sponsor from Wrangler.
Wait,
Would
the
you rather
jeans or
have
the truck?
Wrangler jeans or a Wrangler
Oh,
truck?
okay, great.
That's the
Perfect.
question.
Oh, okay.
What do you think? What do you think is?
Um
What do you think would be better for overall for the story?
Well, they'd have to, if it was going to be the truck, they'd have to be very tasteful. I think you'd have to have, the
It's
charge.
Bill. It's Bill the Pony.
Oh, okay. See,
Bill the Pony is a
I was
Wrangler.
thinking of the charge of the Rohirrim at the Battle of Pelennor Fields, where they're all
Oh,
driving pickup trucks, and
okay.
a
Now
bunch of guys in the
that's
back of the
that.
pickup trucks with spears and bows and arrows and such.
Oh, I mean, what better way to demonstrate the power of a Wrangler
Weird.
Jeep, of a Jeep Wrangler, than driving down that incline and crashing into the lines of
Yeah.
Uruk-hai
Maybe
with the sun rising.
maybe they
in
put
the
some like
background.
cow catchers and plows on the front of it, like in Mad Max, that sort of thing.
Oh,
They
yeah.
outfit the front of the Wrangler.
They've all got those sweet headlight cover things that make them look like they have angry eyes.
Yeah.
But okay,
I would
but
say in terms of
so
being
hang on.
tasteful,
We
though, most tasteful, you
I
could do
mean,
jeans. I think that would be the most tasteful possible thing. I don't think there's a way to insert
so
it.
yeah, let me pitch this to you. The Fellowship is leaving Lorien. They've all had their beautiful cloaks pinned on. They've got these, these amazing brooches. Galadriel's giving them all gifts, and we pan down, and what's that? A crisp pair of blue jeans on every member of the Fellowship.
Yeah. Okay. If any of the Fellowship were going to wear acid wash jeans, which one would it be? I think it would be Legolas.
I mean, it has to
I mean,
be.
who else could even
He's
rock
got the
it?
tasteful rips at the knees,
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
and I'm sure they could Wrangler would have some sort of gusset so that he can
Oh, sure.
still participate in his ridiculous acrobatic
Naturally. Yeah,
antics.
maybe it's the kind of jeans that also have some elastic in them to make them flexible.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, they
For
all
myself, I have a
need
pair
that,
like
and
that. They're fantastic. I can do splits
yeah, they
and
need reinforced stitching for all of their
especially if you're going to skateboard
adventuring
down
needs.
a flight of stairs and shoot arrows while you're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think with a pair of jeans on, he also does a kick flip before he hits the bottom.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
before he grinds some sick rails.
yeah. So, I mean, what do you think? Which would you
I
take?
think I think I would do the jeans. I feel like that could be a little more tasteful than you could
Yeah,
possibly with a
it's a little more in line
yeah.
with Tolkien's wishes, I think.
Yeah. If you had to pick one of those, yes, that would be the one that's a little closer in line.
Although, hang on though, I will say the way that Tolkien describes the power of men on horseback in the books, I would say is more in line with the power of men in the driver's seat of a Jeep Wrangler.
Yeah,
Because they
it's true.
he's just, at every turn it's like, all right, and 100 Rohirrim charged and they killed 1,000, 10,000
Yeah.
orcs. It's it's about 100 to 1, and I don't see those numbers being realistic unless they're sitting behind the wheel of a big Wrangler.
An electric or
But yeah,
motor
yeah,
vehicle
I think
surrounded by
I
steel.
think I agree. At the end of the day, some tasteful jeans
I think that would be the
and maybe even an elvish belts
oh
to
yeah,
hold
for
up
sure.
those
Yeah,
jeans
some belts, sure.
with old knives on 'em. Yeah,
Wrangler
all that
gold
good
belt
stuff.
for Boromir and silver
Oh,
Wrangler
yeah.
belts for Merry and Pippin.
Yeah, I think Boromir is just gonna slap his belt on a la Pootie Tang, and it's just got a giant
Oh man.
Gondorian belt
Yeah. Oh
buckle.
yeah.
Just
Giant. Like there's a
a big
yeah,
tree.
or a horn. Maybe it's a horn that
Ooh.
yeah on his belt buckle match the
I mean,
big ass horn on his
the
belt.
options are basically limitless for this. So yeah, all
We are
right,
gonna
I
make a
agree. Well,
fortune.
yeah,
We're gonna make a
we're just
fortune
gonna call up
selling Lord of the
Wrangler.
Rings piece by piece. That's
We gotta call up Wrangler and reserve the sponsorship now. I think just tell them, yeah, in what is it, 26 years, get ready because we're gonna make some.
it's gonna happen. We're gonna we might be millennials, but we will be able to retire by selling our favorite thing piece by piece.
All right. So, and then I guess the regular sort of question I had for you is, and I'm sneaking in a third, really. It's a two-parter. So, if you could fight any member of the Fellowship, who do you think it would be?
Oh, if I had to
Which is,
fight one,
yeah,
Frodo.
the real question is which
Which
Hobbit
Hobbit?
do
I
you
would
think
fight
you'd
Frodo.
pick?
He's the oldest one. He's in his 50s. He's half my height.
Yeah,
He's in
but I
his
feel like,
50s, and
but they live to be older. I feel like he's he's probably like in his like 40s for a man.
yeah, that's true. But again,
He's pretty slight.
he's the only of the hobbits that doesn't excel in any sort of martial feats. Like Pippin
True.
is that like he's
Well, the question is, does he have the ring on him? Like at what
That's a
point?
good question.
Because
Well,
like
yeah, he's hard to
yeah,
fight
he
if you
just
can't
turns
fight him.
invisible.
I find him.
Yeah, if he turns invisible and just starts like stabbing the back of your legs with
That's a
Sting,
good point.
I mean, yeah, I think I would just go after Pippin.
Yeah, I mean, Pippin's the
It
youngest.
feels like bullying at this point.
I think
but...
no matter what, it's kind of bullying. They're half of a regular man high. So
I mean, I think we could all agree nobody else.
it
None of
yeah.
the man-sized
True.
people of the Fellowship. It's not even a contest.
Odo also does have that mithril shirt, so
yeah,
I mean, I could still beat him up.
He has a shirt and a nice sword.
Beat him up, but like, yeah. So yeah, no, Pippin's the youngest and like the least experienced in life.
Sam's got a frying pan.
Yeah, true. He's got a frying pan,
and he kills a bunch of like Urex and stuff. Yeah.
I would say I would fight Pippin like earliest possible in the books, because I feel like that's the easiest.
So, yeah, take him out as before he's battle worn.
Yeah, before he's even. I don't even want him to have experienced looking in the Palantir. I want him. I want him so baby faced. Just
not non-wizened.
One swift kick to the chest, and he goes flying across.
All right. So then, follow-up question, and this is sort of a twist on a classic question of how many kindergartners do you think you could take in a fight? How many hobbits, like unarmed combat?
Okay, so are we talking? You're talking regular old Shire hobbits, or even hobbits of Bree, but just like regular
unrenowned,
go around
just
doing
hobbits.
their business.
No, they don't get stones to throw at you. They don't.
That's good, because hobbits, as we know,
weapons.
are excellent throwers.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's a David and Goliath situation with one hobbit if they have a rock.
Do I get any weapons when fighting these hobbits?
No,
just everybody's got fists.
Two fists. Yeah.
Okay, given that as much as I'd like to pretend that I am a total badass, it's not even remotely true. So be totally fair and realistic, I think I would be able to take... I think I could take on 4 hobbits at once.
4? Okay.
I think I could take on 4 hobbits at once. I do.
See, for you, I don't mean this to sound like an insult. I was thinking 3.
I mean, maybe. I'm probably being generous with 4, because
I feel
honestly, I'm probably being generous to myself.
You could probably take 4.
Maybe. I mean,
no,
probably couldn't though. Realistically, it's like, because if 2 grab my legs, like that's a big thing. Like they can take me down.
I mean, you could take 1 out pretty easily and even the odds, like right off the bat. I mean, just 1.
Realistically, okay, being more fair and more realistic, 3. I think I could take 3 hobbits in a fight.
No, you know what, Zerby, you could take 4. I
appreciate your faith in me, Sean.
I personally, I was thinking 4 or 5. So I mean,
you're taller than I am. You got like at least 4 inches on me.
I think the big advantage I have is reach on those hobbits. I could hold one like their head and just cartoon style. They'd just be windmilling at me, and I could just sort of handle the rest. With my other 3 limbs.
Yeah, I mean,
but
you could keep them away with those long legs for sure. Those long stancer's legs you have.
But I mean, that was sort of trying to be realistic, but optimistically, I think I could take like 11.
I mean, if I even only have like a wiffle ball bat filled with wet newspaper, I feel like I'd take out I could take out the whole West Farthing.
Like, I mean, if I had a handful of sand, we could just be carving through hobbits like a hot knife through butter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, have you ever heard that question? How many kindergartners do you think you'd take in a fight? I feel like it's less messed up with halflings, because it's just, they're small, but they're adults.
They're grown.
They're making their own choices.
Exactly.
They're swarming
they're
you
the
for
ones
good
deciding
reason.
to fight me. I mean, I was just trying to take a stroll through the Shire, and they start. They're
the aggressor, and you're. All right, so in that case,
I mean, I'm not a guy who goes around picking fights with anybody, not even people I think I could beat up. That said, I like to believe that if I were in a situation where I was forced to fight, I would kick everyone's ass. Is that based on reality? Well, no, it's based entirely on my ego. No, however, I still fully believe it with every heart, every inch of my being.
And you know what? I respect that. So
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're about ready to wrap
I
up.
think so. I have to start getting ready for work at the place that we both work that we're not going to say the name of.
Yeah, the place that shall not be named yet.
All right.
I guess with that,
That's the end of.
we'll
I mean,
just
I have my notes here, and I set up how more or less an episode would go, and I never got to the end. I just have a note that says, "How do we end this?"
Oh,
And I
okay.
never
Well,
decided. I never came up with anything. So maybe
uh,
tune in next time. I guess is how we should
yeah,
end it.
I don't remember the Elvish for goodbye. It's something like
Marie.
Penad Namat. Oh, well, okay, that's just straight up goodbye. Yeah. Oh, all right.
All right.
Well, then
Namarie,
I guess
friends.
Namarie.
This
And
has been the
goodbye.
first episode of the Lord of the Wrongs podcast, and hopefully you'll join us next time.
Yeah, we really just stick it out for one or two, and
Yeah, we'll.
you might end up liking
Yeah,
it.
we might get good at this. You never know.
All right, Namarie.
Namarie, friends.